Now we are moving on to our next topic, which is Microsoft Azure fundamentals. Describe Azure architecture and services. Let me click on this just to give you an idea. Total, we have got 4 modules. And what are those modules? Describe the core architectural component of Azure. And then we have Azure Compute and Networking Service. Describe Azure Storage Service. Describe Azure Identity, Access and Security. In this video, I'm going to focus on the module number 4 in our series. Describe the core architectural components of Azure. Let's see what are the topics that comes under the 4th module. Introduction, what is Microsoft Azure? Get started with Azure Accounts. Explore and learn the Sandbox. Describe Azure physical infrastructure, management infrastructure, create an Azure resource, knowledge check and summary. So this is what I'm going to create content on this particular video. Let's get an introduction to this course. What are the topics we are going to learn in this course? Let's see it. In this one, you are going to learn about the physical organization. For example, where these data centers are available, what are the regions, availability zones, all these things you are going to learn in this video. And then you are going to learn about the organization structure. What are resources? What are resource groups? Subscriptions, how does that work? Management groups, what are these? All these things we are going to see in this video. We will see what is Microsoft Azure. Microsoft Azure, as you know, it supports IaaS, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, SaaS. It has got 100 plus services. Let's say I need virtual machines, I need some databases to store my data, I need AI services, I need machine learning services, I need IoT, many services. There are 100 plus services are there which are offered from Microsoft Azure. Now the best part is you pay as you go. You pay for computing time that you use. Only for the computing time that you're using. For that much time you have to pay for the services. Build VMs from scratch. Let's say I want to design my own VM which requires huge amount of CPUs, which huge amount of hard drives, many things, right? You can configure with a specific operating system I want in that virtual machine. You can build your VMs from scratch. Next, you can also get many cloud-based storage solutions from Azure. In short, you also have something called web app development platform like Python, PHP and things like that. So web app development platform also I can get it from Azure. What it tells me, Azure is one of the web-based, easy to use web-based platform that we will learn how to use Azure, how do you log in, what you do with that we would anyway see it. But it is very easy to use web-based platform. You can build, deploy and manage applications to massive global network. Let's say, imagine lot many websites that you are using like Facebook, like Instagram or any other sites that globally available, massive number of people are using. Now imagine the kind of solution you need to let your application go globally, right? So those kind of a solution services we can get from Azure. The next topic is get started with Azure Accounts. Now I am in this module, describe the core architectural components of Azure, and we have completed introduction and what is Microsoft Azure. Now we will get into get started with Azure Accounts. So I'm going to click on this particular link. So here, first of all, it says you need to have an Azure account. Then you will get a subscription, resource groups and things like that. So here, create an Azure account. You can go watch this video, but I will let you know in short. So there is something called Azure free account. If I click on this particular free account, I have already logged in, but yeah, this is how it will appear. Now, if you click on try Azure for free, this is the page which is going to appear. So here it asks for first name, middle name, last name, things like that. But there is one word of caution. So what it also might ask you is the identify verification by your credit card. Now, many of us may not like to really enter credit card or may not have a credit card. So same thing here. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to use the Azure account creation, which is free, and there are a lot of description which is written here. What are the services you'll get it for free, right? Available only to new Azure customers. Free monthly amounts, 20 plus popular services for 12 months. So all these things are available. But the only thing is the credit card, right? Move to pay as you go, continue beyond 30 days or after credit is used up. So there are also certain once your credit is over, your credit card may be charged after that when you activate. There are many things, right? Credit card won't be charged until you go for it, go for pay as you go service. Okay, however, many of us may not be liking to enter the credit card or may not have a credit card. So what is the other way? So for that, I'll go back to the page again. There is something called, and if you're a student, there are also options available. Okay, so when you go to my portal.azure.com, right, when you try to I already activated my sandbox, but again, I'll let you know, don't worry about all this at the moment. There's also another thing called Azure free student account. So if you click on this, see build in the cloud free with Azure for students. Now it should be, you should be a student. It's not you're a professional, you're trying to go through this, because it will go through verifications of your institute's email ID and things like that. So don't, even if you're not a student, don't go for it. If you're a student, you can also try. Now the other best option which I will be using is the Microsoft Learn Sandbox. Now what is the sandbox is all about, we need to understand. Many of the learn exercises, what you are going to learn, use a technology called Sandbox, which creates a temporary subscription that added to your Azure account. So it will create a temporary, I'll show you what it is, how it appears. So for the moment you understand, it is exactly like portal.azure.com, but this account will be activated for 4 hours at the moment. I'll show you that how you can activate the sandbox. And in the sandbox you can learn. So for learning purpose, that is more than enough. Okay, you don't have to enter your credit card and all those verifications. You don't have to literally go through all of this. Rather, you can use the Microsoft Learn Sandbox. This is for everyone around the world to learn Microsoft technologies. They give you temporarily access to portal.azure.com where you can play around. Okay, so once things are done, it will again omit whatever you have done today. It might not be available tomorrow. Okay, but that's okay. For learning purpose, it is fine. This temporary subscription allows you to create Azure resources. Let's say I want to create a virtual machine that I will show you how to create. So all this can be done in the learning subscription. Okay, this is more like a learning subscription which get activated for certain hours. Learn automatically cleans up the temporary resources for you after you have completed the module. So automatically clear up your things. When you're completing Learn module, you are welcome to use your personal subscription. So you can also go for a saying, if you are not happy with the sandbox, as I showed, right, where you have to fill all the details. This is the link you have to use to activate your free account. Okay, Azure free account, to complete the exercises in a module. However, the sandbox is the preferred method to use because it allows you to create and test Azure resources at no cost to you. That is the best option, Microsoft Learn Sandbox. Now, after this particular course, here below you have something called Explore the Learn Sandbox. I'm going to click on Next. Okay, Explore the Learn Sandbox. So this is our next topic, Explore the Learn Sandbox. Now, the moment I'm opening it, I am going through a problem at the moment of recording this video. It tells me the sandbox for this module is currently unavailable. And you might see this or you might face this. We are working to resolve this as quickly as possible. In the future, it might appear directly here. In the meantime, you may be able to complete this module exercise using your personal subscription. It is telling you if you have a personal subscription, you can go for it. Now, I don't want to go for personal subscription. What is the alternative? So what I did, I started searching in the Google to see if this is an issue everybody is having. So issue with Sandbox being unavailable on Microsoft Azure fundamentals. This is the one of the somebody has posted this. So I went through this, and below here there was someone from Microsoft maybe had posted there is a discussion happening in this particular thread. I opened this thread. Okay. Now in this particular thread, if I scroll down, okay, there is an alternative provided. You can work around the issue by opening up a new tab and activating Sandbox using below link. So what I will do, I am going to give you this particular link in the description of the video. Just I'm also going to store it in the notepad so that I can share it in the description of the video. Okay, so this is the link, service exercise create Azure virtual machine. So this is the link I'm going to provide you. So let me open up this particular link. Okay, so now you can see this link is working. Create an Azure virtual machine, verify your account, and this is how it will appear. So I'm going to click on start puzzle. Getting it? The moment I launch the link, this is what would appear. And the same thing should happen in the exercise that we saw. This is the same. This is also the same page you should have seen here, but because of certain issues, currently it's not appearing. In the future, it might appear. Once you see this, verify your account. I'm going to click on start puzzle. It is asking me a few questions. Match the number of rocks with the number on the left, just to verify you are not a robot, right? You are a human being. So you might get a different puzzle. So it is saying only one rock, right? So here there is only one rock. I am going to submit. The moment I am submit, the verification is complete. Okay. So once the verification complete, you get something like this: create an Azure virtual machine. So here you have to click on activate Sandbox. Do you see? I'm going to click on activate Sandbox. A different sandbox is already active. Meanwhile, while I had this issue, actually I have activated the sandbox. Okay, for the learning purpose, that is why it is prompting me. You already have a sandbox which is active. Would you like to use that? You have already activated Sandbox in the module Explore Azure App Services. If you activate the Sandbox, you will lose your work in the other module. It's saying. So you may not get this prompt. So for example, if I say yes, activate a new Sandbox, for example, deactivating the previous Sandbox. Okay, that's for you may not see this. Okay, checking for verifying the permissions. Creating resource group. Okay, assigning roles. So this is a temporary environment. They're giving me access to portal.azure.com with a learn subscription. Creating a storage account. Creating file share. Okay, finishing. Okay, Sandbox activated. Time remaining is 1 hour. You have used 2 of 10 sandboxes for today. More sandboxes will be available tomorrow. Okay, so now you see, welcome to Azure Cloud Shell. This is how the sandbox would look like. I'll tell you how, but don't worry. Now look, follow me. So here, look at Azure Cloud Shell. So there are two different things. One is Bash and PowerShell. For example, let me click on Bash. Getting started, select a subscription to get started. You can optionally mount a storage account to, so most it's not required, no storage account required, so leave it. So I'll simply click on subscription. So I'll select consist means the free subscription. Okay, and apply. Okay, requesting for Cloud Shell. Now it came, just connecting to terminal. Okay, once your sandbox is activated, see what needs to be done, I'll tell you. So the AZ to use Azure CLI, type help to learn about Cloud Shell. Welcome to Azure Cloud Shell. So for example, this is the bash shell. I'll write some command, date. See, I can see the date. let me switch to PowerShell. You don't have to know Bash or PowerShell, just to show you how it works. I'm using now the PowerShell. Your Cloud Shell session will be okay. Okay, now it is there. For example, I'll say get date, enter. You can see it is working. Now, mostly for this learning exercise, I am not using Bash, not using PowerShell. I'll be using something called portal dot. Once this is activated, simply go to portal.azure.com. Okay, you are signed out. Just a moment. So I'll select my account. I'll enter my passwords. We sign in. Yep. Don't show. Yes. So now you'll see portal.azure.com has been signed in. That's all you have to do. Simple. Now you actually reach the portal where you can start your learning journey. The very first thing you should do is type subscription. In case you don't see the icon here, just simply type subscription. Now, when I go to the subscription, you can see consider subscription. That means limited. You have a limited subscription for some time. And current cost unauthorized. That means generally here you will be able to see your invoices, what is the cost for the month. So anyways, it's a free account, so I don't have to do anything with this. Okay, so leave it as it is. Okay, so my email ID, so I have logged in, so I have a subscription now. So once I have the subscription for learning purpose, now we will learn how to create a VM and a lot other things in this video. I am in the portal.azure.com. So here there is something called create a resource. If I click on create a resource, you have got multiple options. For example, I can create virtual machines, web apps, SQL databases, functions, key vault, data factory, logic app. There are many things. Okay. Automation. There are many things that you can do. Right now, for example, if I click on virtual machine, it asks you many things. Subscription, what is your subscription type? So here I have got a free subscription. I'm going to select it. Resource group. Now, what is this resource group? Now, there are many things you have to know the terms before starting getting created on Azure. What are these terms? What does that actually mean? That is necessary. So coming back to our original course, the next topic after you saw how a sandbox you have activated, the next thing is describe Azure physical infrastructure. So let's learn our topic, describe Azure physical infrastructure. What is a physical infrastructure means to you? Now physical, with the word physical, it may be already clear. So it is nothing but it's talking about data centers. Same as large corporate data centers. If you ever had a chance, or maybe you can Google it and see how a data center looks. So it is more like a corporate data center. Now a data center, to imagine what it is nothing but resources arranged in racks. So you would have seen a server room. It has racks and there are many things running, lights blinking. You might have look, or you can YouTube it or Google it just to give an to experience a data center how it looks. Okay, so the server rooms, what we generally call, it will have its power, cooling, power backup, cooling, networking, a lot of things. So for Azure, data centers are there around the world. Now data centers are grouped in regions and zones. So it is there around the world. That means in many countries, the data centers of Microsoft Azure are present. Now they are grouped into regions and zones. For example, if I ask you a country, it has states and then it has districts. Similar way, these words are very useful and you will be using them a lot often in Microsoft Azure. So it is very important to understand what is a region. Regions are, what is a zone, what is a Azure region, and what is a Azure zone. This is very important. Let's see what is a regions? Now, regions, it is a geographical area on planet. It's a place. It's a geographical area or a location on planet. It contains at least one but potentially multiple data centers nearby. So what it's saying, it contains at least one data center or potentially multiple data centers nearby, networked together. So that's the reason. So what is that? I am going to show you by going to the data center view of Microsoft, where what is this reason, you will get an understanding. But just imagine data center, you can imagine it has multiple servers inside a room, something like that. So multiple data centers are there inside a in a geographic location. So grouped together, you call it as a region. It can have one data center or it can have more than one. That called a region. I'm going to show you. Now, why we have this kind of a structure made? Why Azure has got in one region, it has got, let's say, minimum 3 zones it has. Now, what are these zones? These are separate data centers. For example, in Bangalore, one data center it has, for example, in Electronic City. The other data center it has got, let's say, near Whitefield, right? It has got another data center near Hebal. So now in one Bangalore location, nearby, it has got around 3 data centers. Now what happens if one data center goes wrong? That means something fault happened or some issue happened. Then there is another data center nearby which can take care of this. It can balance the load. If something goes wrong at one place, the other place is still ready to run as a backup, right? Something goes wrong, the other can take it up. So put together these 3 data centers I will call as one region. I'll call it a Bangalore region, or I'll say South India region, some name we will give. So nearby networked together, okay, data centers nearby networked together, put together, this is called a region. Workloads are appropriately balanced. Now let's understand what are zones. Physically separate data centers with Azure region. For example, I said Bangalore region, let's say South India. Now in South India or in Bangalore, I'll just take an example of Bangalore, and there are multiple places in Bangalore, right? So now imagine physically there are 3 data centers. I'm giving just an example, okay? Imagine there are 3 data centers, one in Electronic City, one in Whitefield, other in Hebal. Now these 3 data centers are this put together, these 3 are called region. So I'll call it as, for example, Bangalore region. I'm just giving an example. Now in Bangalore region, I have got 3 data centers. Each Electronic City will be called as one zone. The Whitefield data center will be called as one zone, and the Hebal data center will be called as one zone. So there are 3 zones, and put together 3 zones, I will call it as a region, and I can give a name. I just gave a vague example, but exactly I'll show you. There are South India, Central India zones, Azure regions are there. I'm going to show you that. Now each zone made up of one or more data centers has independent power. For example, the Electronic City data center has its own power backup, power system, cooling system, and networking system. Similar way, the Whitefield data center has its own power, cooling, and network. So they are isolated individual data centers, offices. Okay. Now the third one in Hebal also has its own office, own area in which it has its own power, cooling, and networking. Now these 3 zones are grouped, they are linked together. If one zone goes down, the other continues working. How? Because they are connected through high speed private fiber optic network. All these 3 data centers are connected together. So wherever you stay, for example in your city, imagine there are 3 different places where this is kept. Now that one, putting this 3 zones, I will call it as one region. You getting it? So regions and zones, let's understand little more in detail. Now for this, I'm back to the learn.microsoft.com. A region is a geographical area on the planet that contains at least one, but potentially multiple data centers that are nearby and networked together. The important part you should remember, nearby and networked together with latency. Now I'm going to show you certain data centers. So I was talking about the zones, okay? Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3. I gave you example of Bangalore as a city. I have three different places in Bangalore city and one data center. One office is here, one office is another place. Whitefield, Electronic City, Whitefield, and the other one is Hebal, I said. So this is Zone 1. Electronic City is Zone 1, for example. A Whitefield is Zone 2, for example, and Hebal is, for example, Zone 3. Physically, they're located in a nearby place, but again with certain distance, and then they are connected together with the networking, the fiber optic network. So this is called a region. Now let's actually see where are these regions available, okay, and what is the use of this. For example, if I go back to my portal.azure.com, okay, I'll click on create a resource and I'm going to click on virtual machine I want to create. Now here it will ask me, I'll show you this in detail, but look at it. It asks you, okay, let's say I'm from India. My company is in India. Now I would like to create the VM in India itself. I don't want to create the VMs outside because the data should be staying in my own country. So what I will do, I'll search for India. Now in India, how many different locations I could see? There is something called Asia Pacific Central India. And they are recommending you keep it here. There are also other two options available. For example, South India and West India. So 1, 2, 3. Now, while creating virtual machine, there could be multiple regions. So what is this? I'm selecting region. Okay, look at this. I'm selecting region. In region, I clicked here and I typed in India how many such regions are there. So it gave me some 3 regions. There could be more regions. However, creating VMs are available in these 3 regions. You getting it? There could be many data centers, but for a particular service, creating a virtual machine is a service. Now this service is available in Central India, in South India, in West India. Now what comes to my mind, let me see it physically, at least on a map. Central India, South India, West India. Let me see it. Okay, I will show you. So what you can do, you can, in the same page, there is something called global infrastructure. I have already clicked on this. So datacenters.microsoft.com. What is it? Datacenters.microsoft.com. Now here, what I will do, you can see for the entire world. Okay, so there are multiple modes to see. You can click on view globe and see like this. Okay, here it is India. This is one way. So you can see Central India is there, South India is there, Bombay, maybe this could be the West India. Okay, there are multiple locations. This is one way. You can also see it in the table form. You can also see it in the map form. So let me use map. Now here, let me slightly zoom it and go to India. So here it is India. So now in India, there's something called South India is one region. South India. Central India is another region. Where is Central India? Here you can see Central India. Now for example, let me click on South India. Okay, so I clicked on South India. I cannot literally tell you which is the data center here in this image. Little difficult for me, but let me click on Central India. It's not clearly tells us. It might not clearly show you, but yeah, this is where it is. And if you scroll down, it tells you this Central India, the region, right? This is a region. So the region with availability zones. So where is the location? The location is in Pune. I gave you example of Bangalore. Bangalore doesn't have, but Pune has. So location is what? Pune. Now this Pune region has availability zones. There could be regions which may not have availability zones. That is also possibility. So availability zones. So it has got availability zones available with 3 zones. It has got minimum 3 zones. It has. Very good. Now let us check some other, for example, South India I will see. Okay, South India. It is in Chennai. Availability zone, nearest region with zones available. Nearest region, but it did not tell me if it has 3 zones or 1 zone, that we can see. So what I will do here, I will let me select South India. Okay, that means in Chennai. Now here it doesn't give me option for zones. South India, Asia Pacific, South India. See availability zones, I don't see it. So if I select India, recommended Central India, that means Central India means Pune, right? So let's go and check once again. Central India means Pune. Okay, in Pune, I have available zones. So what would happen the moment I select Pune here, Central India, right? I've selected, I mean, you cannot select Pune, but Central India, the name of the zone is Central India. If I select this, okay, Central India, location is Pune. If I select this particular region, then it gave me an option availability zone. Now when I click on availability zone, if I go here, you can see there is a property came out, availability zone, and I have option to select. So what it means, for example, my VM I am selecting, it should get created in zone 1, and I need one more backup which should be there in zone 3. So taking example of, for example, Bangalore, I want my VM to be available in Electronic City data center, and one more VM should also be available in Whitefield or Hebal. So I'm creating two. Let's say it is mission critical application. I don't want the application to go down. It should always run. Then I would select 3 zones. All the 3 zones I've selected. If one goes down, other is there. So that means I'm ensuring high availability. Again, that will come with cost because I'm literally creating 3 VMs in 3 different data centers. So here it tells you based on your zone selection, we will place 3 virtual machines, one in each selected zone. So zone means different locations in the city, for example. So there are 3 different data centers. I am going to keep it. You may want to create the resource as a virtual machine scale set VM. That is a different. Let's leave it. Now you understood. In one city, there are 3 different locations where there are data centers. I am creating my VM in 3 data centers because I am going to host an application which is mission critical. That means it has to run all the time. It cannot fail. Let's say it's not like that. It's okay, fine. I can just go with one zone. I don't want to increase my cost. That means in this city, at one particular zone I have selected. That is where it should run. You getting it? Now zone 1, right? Where exactly that zone 1 is there? Those information. I am not able to find it at the moment, but let's see. So like this, zones are nothing but a physical location, okay, where the data center is available. So region you have understood. Collection of different location is called a region. Now let's see what are zones. Okay, availability zones are physically separate data centers within an Azure region. Each availability zone is made up of one or more data center. For example, in Electronic City, in the I took 100 acres of premises where I have got not just one, I have got multiple data centers in Electronic City itself. So I have multiple data centers physically, one here, one little far, little. So in the same isolated area, I have kept so it can have one or more data centers. So zone is, just imagine, it's a office, it's a specific location. Each availability zone is made up of one or more data centers equipped with independent power. It has its own power, cooling and networking. Why it is saying independent power? So that means one fails, then there is another one which has its own independent cooling. It's not you have one power for entire data center and if something goes wrong here, everything fails. So independent maintenance of this power, cooling, networking is important. Okay. An availability zone is set up to be an isolation boundary. It has, think of office, it has its own office, it has its own location. I'll show you, I think, to get you a little bit of, image. I'll show you one in the West US 3. Okay. See, do you see this? Do you see? So this could be the data center of Microsoft. Okay. Arizona. It is there in Arizona, stored at the rest in the United States. So it may not literally locate you, but yeah. can just imagine. Okay. So you understood, right? What region and zone means. Okay. Region. Just to keep it very simple, in your mind, think Bangalore or any city, and in that city there are multiple different places where the data centers are physically available. Think in that way. It'll be easy for you to understand. Region means Bangalore region I'm selecting, and I'm selecting zones. Electronic city I want my VM, Whitefield I want my VM, and I want my VM to be there in the Hibal. So three zones. So if you keep, take some example in your head, it will be very easy to understand region and zones. Okay. Now, to ensure resiliency, a minimum of three separate availability zones are present in availability zone enabled regions. Now, all regions do not have zones. I told you. We saw it also, right? All regions doesn't have zones. So, of three separate availability zones are present in a minimum of three. It could be more. Okay, minimum of three separate availability zones are present in all availability zone enabled regions. However, not all regions currently support availability zones. We saw an example. Okay, now let's read. Now this is more of concepts that you should be aware of. Okay, and you know what is the implication, how you are selecting, which region you are selecting. For example, a customer is from imagine Europe. Okay, now in Europe, for example, if I type Europe, I'll go to here and I'll select Europe. Now in Europe, you would say the maximum regions are there in Europe. Okay, you see North Europe, Sweden Central, UK South, West Europe, France Central, Germany West Central, Italy North, Norway East, Poland Centrals, Spain Central. Okay, West Europe. Okay, so there are many regions here. West Europe. If you want to see in the globe, you can see it. North Europe, Spain, MUC, Italy, Poland, Sweden, Norway East, France Central, okay, UK South, UK West. Let me see. West Europe, Spain Central. Can I zoom it? Okay, it is a little better. Let's see it. Okay, do you see West Europe? Now I have worked in a couple of previous companies where the zone was West Europe. This is where it is. Okay, West Europe, United Kingdom, UK West, okay, Belgium Central, West Europe. Okay, so like that you can spend a lot of time to just literally understand where the zones are, regions are. Okay, use availability zones in your apps. You want to ensure your services and data are redundant so you can protect your information in case of failures. When you host your infrastructure, setting up your own redundancy requires that you create duplicate hardware environments. So why are you selecting multiple zones? For example, you saw me selecting, for example, let me select West Europe, for example. Okay. Now West Europe has availability zones. So it is highlighted. Now I'm going to see it has got three zones. So I'm going to create my VM in 1 and 2, or I want to create my VM in, let's say, 1 and 3, based on your need, or you want all the three regions based on, and accordingly more hardware components you are creating, more cost also you have to pay, right? So that is what it is, in detail it's written here. Let's read it. Create duplicate hardware environments. Azure can help make your app highly available through availability zones. Now, what is the purpose of doing this? You are making your application highly available through availability zones. That means your VM is created in multiple zones. You can use availability zones to run mission critical applications and build high availability into your application. Architecture by co-locating your compute, storage, networking, and data sources within an availability zone and replicating in other availability zones. So you have created one and replicating that VM into multiple other zones. Okay, inside that region. Keep in mind that there could be a cost to duplicating your services. You see, that is what I was talking about. And transferring data between availability zones. That means when you are having the VM in multiple places, now whatever is happening here, that data has to be passed to the other data center also. That means you're always transmitting the data. So all the three VMs are the same. If something goes wrong, there is another one to take up, right? So keep in mind that there could be a cost to duplicating your services and transferring data between availability zones. Okay. Availability zones are primarily for VMs, managed disks, right? Your hard drive and things like that, load balancers, and SQL databases. Azure service that supports availability. So this is very important. Huh? Availability zones are primarily for which resources. So you would select VMs, your hard drive you can think of, load balancers, and databases, SQL databases. Okay. From here, I am going to talk about a couple of important points. Now the Azure service that support availability zones. So we heard not all the services are may require multiple zones and all that. Maybe some of them requires. So what are those? So there are three categories. One, we call it as zonal services. For example, your virtual machines, your hard disks, for example, IP addresses, right? So you don't want this to leave your city. This has to be within the city or in a in a reach or wherever you like, right? So that those things, this services like creating a VM, your disk and IP addresses, this for which a zone is required. Now the other thing, for example, storage like SQL database service and all those things, right? For that. And non-regional services are always available from Azure geographies and are resilient to zone-wide outages as well as region-wide outages. So why you want now any services where the zone-wide outage can impact, so you want it should all to be there in another zone, not just at one data center but also be there in other data center. Or region-wise outages, reason entire Bangalore has outage now because of certain thing happened. Now what do you think if the entire region itself is down for certain event, some natural disaster or something happened, the entire region itself down? Now in that case, what you need, region pairs. So one region supporting another region. Let's say imagine like we saw the other one, Chennai is a actual region and the Pune is another region. We saw it. Okay, just to go back to the graph, let me do my little reduce it. So you saw at least two zones. You saw one is South India zone and the Central India as a zone. So Central India is a region, is a region, and South India is another region. Now if South India falls down or something went wrong here in, because this is located in Chennai. Now if something goes wrong here, then there should be another region within the country which can support it. So we have Central India, right? This one, Central India. If I click, it is in Pune. If something goes wrong in Pune, Chennai is there to support. So these are called region pairs. So very important word, region pairs. Most Azure regions are paired with another region within the same geography. I mean within the same country or same geography. For example, US, Europe, Asia. These are the geographical locations, not the country. I would say geography. At least 300 miles away. So what is the important point? At least 300 miles away. So if you see Pune and Chennai, at least 300 miles away. So something goes wrong here, there is another reason to support it. This approach allows for replication of resources across geography that helps reduce the likelihood of interruptions because of events such as natural disaster, civil unrest, power outages, or physical network outages that affect an entire region. For example, if a region in a pair was affected by natural disaster, services would automatically fail over to other region in its region pair. You getting it? Pretty simple understanding. If something happens in one city, there's another city which can take backup of. Okay, so you call it as regions. Okay. Now, so for example, region pair. One region has, let's say, three zones, another region has three zones, and they are interconnected. Something goes wrong here, there is another one to take care. And if something goes wrong here, there's another one to take care. Something like that. Additional advantages of region pairs. So it's pretty simple. If an extensive Azure outage occurs, one region out of every pair is prioritized to make sure at least one is restored as quickly as possible for application hosted in that region pair. Planned Azure updates are rolled out to paid regions, one region at a time, to minimize downtime and risk of application outages. Data, that means I have to do updates, some machine updates or hardware updates, anything I would like to do, right? Then I have to keep one region down or one data center down and then get. So imagine I have to put entire region down and then I have to ensure all the services that were running here are activated in the other city, in the other region, and that runs. So the customers are not disturbed. Data continues to reside within the same geography as it pairs. So for all these reasons, okay. Now, most regions are paid in two directions, meaning they are backup for the region that provides a backup for them. West, for example, West US and East US back each other up. So West US, East US. Let's see that in the graph, okay. West and East US, right? So let me go to US. West US, you can see it here. And then East US. Do you see? East US, West US. So this gives backup to this. This gives backup to this. Alright. However, some regions such as West India and Brazil South are paid in only one direction. In one direction pairing, the primary region does not provide backup for its secondary region. So even though West India's secondary region is South India does not rely on West India. So sometimes it could be one direction. So West India's second region, South India. South India does not rely on West India. South India might be relying on, Central India. West India's secondary region, South India, but South India's secondary region is Central India. See, just now I told it. Brazil South is unique because it is paired with region outside of its geography. Brazil South secondary region is South Central US. So like that, the pairing can be done based on the need. Now there is another thing called sovereign regions. What is this? In addition to regular regions, Azure also have sovereign regions. Sovereign regions are instances of Azure that are isolated from the main instance of Azure. That means they are isolated. They are only independent data center. Now, why independent? Because of security. You may need to use the sovereign regions for compliance or legal purposes. Azure sovereign regions include US DoD Central, US Government Virginia, US Government, you see, government related things. Okay, they want their own thing. It should not be shared outside of that. These regions are physical and logical network isolated instance of Azure for US government agencies and partners. These data centers are operated by screened US personnel and include additional compliance certifications. You're getting it for government things. Similar way, China East, China North, and more. These regions are available through unique partnership between Microsoft and 21 ViaNet. So there are also many sovereign regions are there. Sovereign regions means just think of government. The government wants its own. They don't want data to go out of that. Everything, the backup and things should be planned inside. It's more secure. The personals who work inside that, they have go through, they are screened and things like that. Okay. So it's for government. Just remember government. Then we saw region pairs. Think of two cities. Similar way, we saw zones. Zones means within a city you have multiple locations. Just for memory, imagination, it becomes quite easy to remember this way. Okay, regions you understood, and always follow this. It will become very easy for you to understand in detail. So with this, we have completed the Azure physical infrastructure. Now the next topic is describe Azure management infrastructure. In the Azure management infrastructure, the key important terms are resources, resource groups, subscription, and accounts. Now we have to do a bottom up approach. So the very first thing is resource. Okay. So anything you create or provision are called a resource. For example, here I am creating a virtual machine. For example, let me go one step back. So here I'll create a resource. Okay. For example, virtual machine is a resource. Web app is a resource. SQL database is a resource. Function app is a resource. So these are all resources. Okay. All these are resources. Now, anything you create is a resource. Okay. For example, virtual machine, just to keep it pretty simple as at the beginning, databases. These are the resources. Now, are considered cognitive services extra considered resources within Azure. Okay, resource is pretty simple, VM or database. Just keep some simple examples so that it makes easy for you to remember. So think of a VM, think of a database. These are all resources. And in the portal.azure.com, just have a look. This is a resource. This is a resource. Okay. All right. Now, resource group means what? Simply grouping of resources. For example, I'm grouping them. One VM, one database as one group. So when I group them, they are called resource groups. And where these resource groups are really utilized, I'll show you. For example, if I create a virtual machine, the moment I create, it asks you, tell me your subscription. I've selected, tell me your resource group. So here the resource group you have to select. So resource group is nothing but grouping the resources. Create a resources you are required to place into one resource. Just think of a container. In one container, you have one VM, one DB database, for example. While resource groups can contain many resources, a single resource can only be in one resource group. That means one VM can only be in one resource group. For example, I created a group called resource group 1, for example. Now this will be part of only one group at a time. Some resources may be moved between resource groups. For example, you're moving from group 1 to group 2. When you move a resource to a new group, it will no longer be associated with a former group. So what is the important rule to remember? A single resource can only be in one resource group. This is a very important point. Additionally, resource groups can't be nested, meaning you cannot put resource group B inside the resource group A. You cannot nest them. They are individual entities. You getting it? Resource group 1 has got one VM, one database. A resource group 2 has got two VMs, two databases. Getting it? So they are individual entities and you cannot nest them. That means you cannot put this group into this, that is not possible. The highlighted points are very, very important. Resource groups provide a convenient way to group resources together. When you apply an action to a resource group, that action will apply to all resources within the resource. Now the question that naturally comes to our mind, why I have to create a group? The answer is here. For example, if you delete a resource group, all the resources will be deleted. I have got one VM, one database. If I delete that, everything will be deleted. So you get that control, complete control to apply something. If you grant or deny access to a resource group, for example, I'm giving access to someone to resource group 1. If I grant it, he gets access to all the resources. That means he will have access to the VM and the databases, whatever is there inside the resource group. You have granted or denied. Let's say I want to remove his access. So all the resources, whatever is there in the resource group, it goes away. So that is why we are creating a group, resource group, so that you can apply any policies that you want very, very easily. Anything you would like to act, it becomes easy to apply at a group level. Okay, that is the important point. Now, after you have created a group, there is something called subscriptions. Now, what are the subscriptions? In Azure, subscriptions are unit of management, billing and scaling. So for example, when you have to build an app, you would need to have a development environment, you would like to have a test environment, you would like to have a production environment, dev environment, test environment and production environment. Now in the dev environment, that you will create a subscription called dev subscription. For test, you will create another subscription called test subscription. So in the dev subscription, you have got the VMs for developers, you have got databases, whatever the resources are required. For test, you have again, let's say you have got 10 developers, so you have got 10 VMs for 10 developers. In test subscription, you need only 2. So you may be having 2 VMs and 1 database or 2 databases. Production subscription, you may have many, or maybe, right, you may have multiple nodes. So production subscription. So you are keeping multiple environments. Subscription are nothing but different environments. Okay. Think of dev environment, test environment, and production environment. These are called subscription account. So I know at the end of the month, for the development, what is my cost? For test environment, what is my cost? For production environment, what is my cost? Okay. So this will help you in terms of billing, facilitated billing. Okay. Subscription allow you to logically organize your resource groups and facilitate billing. Using Azure requires an Azure subscription. So it is a must. Without a subscription, it cannot work. For example, if you see right now, the subscription here when I creating, it's gone. That means my sandbox is now gone. It's been an hour and I lost it. So what should I do again? I'll try to open that particular link that I saved in my notepad. We open that. Okay. So it is now. Let me activate my sandbox. Creating resource group, you see, assigning roles, creating storage account, creating file shares. Okay, finishing. Sandbox activated. You have used 4 of 10 sandboxes. Okay, fine. Now if I try to go to portal.azure.com, azure.com, okay. Now if I click on create a resource group, create. Okay, so now the subscription has automatically appeared. So this is a free subscription. Now the resource group. Now here I don't have to manually create my own resource group because it's a learning this one. It will automatically create a resource group here. Now inside this resource group, I am creating a virtual machine. I am adding one resource in this way. Okay, so subscription and resource group, this two what should be pretty clear, and resource should be pretty clear. So subscription, if you click here in the subscription, so because it is a learning subscription, see, I have resource access, I have, this is the subscription ID, this is the subscription name. So anytime I am creating a resource, what exactly it is asking you? Hey, select your subscription. Now my subscription is, let's say, development subscription. I have a test subscription, I have a production subscription. So now I cannot name it because it's a free one. So I will select the whatever available here, and then resource groups is automatically created called learn. Okay, so here create new. For example, if you create new, you can give it a name. For example, I will say you do not have permission to create resource groups under subscription conscious subscription because you know this is a learning subscription. I'm not able to create one. Otherwise, you can create your own name. Like you can give it a name as dev subscription, test subscription, based on the need. Okay. So Azure requires Azure subscription. Without that, you can't do anything. A subscription provides you with authenticated and authorized access to Azure product and services. Very important point. That's why the very first step would be having a subscription. You can use Azure subscription to define boundaries around Azure products, services, and resources. Now, what are these two types of boundaries? Important. Billing boundary, access control boundary. Billing means for dev, how much cost is coming in a month. Test subscription, how much cost is coming. Billing related, cost related. Okay. Access control boundary. Azure applies access management policies at the subscription level. So access management, where it is applied at the subscription level. For development, what kind of a boundary I have to apply, access policies I have to apply. Test how what should be my access management policies. Production, what should be my access management policies. Okay, so I can apply at the subscription level. And you can create separate subscription to reflect different organization structures. So let's not get into more details. If you want, you can go through it, but again, I'll keep only important points so that it's easy to understand, and on the go while we complete this course you will have more knowledge. Okay, so for the moment, these are the highly important points I have highlighted. Apart from subscription, there is something called Azure management groups. Now, final piece of the management group, resources are gathered into resource groups. You know it. Resources are inside resource groups. Resource groups are gathered into subscriptions. Okay. Azure management groups provide a level of scope above subscription. So subscription is the highest layer you saw. Subscription, then you got resource groups, and inside that you have got resources. Subscription, and then inside one subscription you have resource groups. You can have multiple resource groups, and each resource group can have multiple resources. So that is the hierarchy you have learned. On top of that, there is something called Azure management groups. Azure management groups provide a level of scope above subscription. Now, why it is done? All subscriptions within a management group automatically inherit the conditions applied to the management group. So whatever conditions you would like to apply, it inherits to all the subscription inside that. So management group is on top of all different subscriptions. So let's say I have got here 3 subscriptions. So this becomes a management group. So there is a diagram also, you can easily understand. So here you can see the root management group. Inside that, this yellow ones that you see are different subscriptions, and below the subscription you will have your resource groups, and within the resource group you would have resources. So these are the subscriptions been taken. Okay, trial subscription, EA subscription, and things like that. So management group is the top layer. Getting it? So this is the hierarchy we have learned. If you like, you can always go through the entire thing, but for my tutorial I'll keep it pretty simple so that it on the go you will learn a lot many things. Okay, so with this we have completed the Azure management infrastructure. Important points to remember are resources, resource groups, subscription, and on top of this accounts, or what you call it as the management groups. Okay, so this entire structure, if you remember this picture, if you remember, it will be more very much clear to you. Now after this, once this chapter is complete, the next thing that we have is an exercise. This is what is interesting. Create an Azure resource. So our next chapter is create an Azure resource. To create a Azure resource, I'm going to click on this exercise. Now at the time I am recording this, I still see there is a problem with the sandbox. The sandbox for the module currently unavailable. So in the previous set of video, I have already told I am using this particular link, and I'm going to pass this link in the description. You can check the description box. Okay. Now already I have logged into portal.azure.com, and my subscription, the sandbox is active for another 46 minutes. So let me do it very quickly. So here, what should I do? So the moment you open this, there are instructions. Only this instruction you have to follow. Pretty simple. Sign into Azure portal, which I have already done. Okay, so I'm going to keep it like this so that it has become easy. So let's create our very first Azure resource. All you have to do, follow this particular document. Create a virtual machine. That is the very first resource we will create. For this, I have to first sign into Azure portal, so which I have already done. Next thing, select create a resource virtual machine and click on create. That means you have to click on create a resource and then virtual machines, and there's an option called create. You have to click on this. And now this is the page. Now what you should fill in this, that is also clearly written. The create virtual machine pane opens the basic tab. Verify or enter following values for each settings. So I'm going to expand this. So what are the values you have to select, because it's a learning subscription, okay? So there are certain things you have to follow. Subscription, you have to select consist subscription. So by default, the subscription is this because it's a learning subscription. Resource group. For the resource group, select the resource group name that begins with learn. So here if you click on the drop down, you would find learn. But if you click on create new, it will not allow you. For example, if I type something here, see, you do not have permission to create a resource group. So leave it. So you have to only select the resource group because of the learning sandbox. Next thing, for virtual machine name, you have to put my VM. So let me put my VM, my virtual machine. Region, leave default. So whatever it comes with your subscription, leave it default. So it came with West US, I'll leave it as it is. Okay. Region, leave default. Availability options, leave default. Security type, leave default. So availability options, I'll leave it as it is. Security type, trusted, so leave it default. Okay. So whatever it comes, leave it default at the moment. And then image, leave default. Okay, I'm leaving this as a default. And then so here you would have image. For example, I want Windows 10 image or Windows Server image. Okay, I can select. So for the moment, I'll just follow the instruction and I'm going to leave it default. And then VM architecture, ARM64 x64, I'll leave it default. Run with Azure spot discount. Okay, so run with Azure unchecked. This should remain unchecked. And then size, leave default, because this is just a test environment we are creating, right? This is just for testing and learning purpose. So here click on the drop down just to learn what are the different options available, what would be the cost. So I'm going with the standard V3. There are two virtual CPUs, vCPUs, 8 GB memory, so it will cost you 85. If I go with standard V3, 4 virtual CPUs, this would be the cost. V3, 2 vCPU, 16 GB, this would be the cost. So highest is the V3, this one, D4S V3, standard D4S V3 with the highest cost. So based on the time you are doing it, you can see the cost here in this. Okay. So I'll leave that default. And then size, authentication type, size is done. Now let's scroll down. Authentication type, SSH public key. So here in the authentication type, you have to select password. So here let me select password. Okay. Then it asks you username and password. So username, I will keep it as Azure user. Okay. Azure user, and enter a custom password. So for the password, let's read this. The value must not be empty. The password must have 3 of the following: 1 lowercase, 1 uppercase, 1 number, and 1 special character. The value must be between 12 to 72 character long. Let me try some password here. I've tried. Let me confirm the password. Okay, so it is all okay. Then let's follow the next thing. Confirm password. Public inbound ports, I'll keep it as none. Public inbound ports, I'll keep it as none. And all the fields have been entered. Now once you have entered all the fields, select review and create. Select review and create. So here validation failed for the following tab: basics, required information missing or invalid. Let me try. I think here it is something missing. Let me try some proper passwords maybe. Okay, so I've entered. Now let me create review plus create. Okay, never. So validation passed. Let's go back to the document, review and create, and then product details will include cost associated with the creating the virtual machine. This is a system function. If you are creating the VM in Learn Sandbox, we are doing it Learn Sandbox, you won't actually incur any cost. Okay, so validation passed. What is the cost here? 0.11 SD USD for our pricing of other VM sizes. Subscription credit apply. One standard. So this is what it's showing you. When you take a real subscription, you will see all these things, right? The same thing is happening. So once you have seen everything, okay, all my details have come. The consist subscription, this is all the details, you can see it here. Networking. Okay, now after going through entire this, all I have to do, click on create. All right, now leave it for initializing deployment, initializing template deployment for resource group. Learn this. You can see the actual thing exactly would happen when you have a real account. The same thing would happen. You will experience the same thing. So now you can see the resource is in progress. Just wait for some time. Deployment is in progress. Okay, see my VM. Okay, so now I got a notification deployment succeeded. Create VM so and so created. Now once the VM, your deployment is complete, you can see the check mark. Let's go back to the document. Wait while the VM is provisioned. Deployment is in progress. We'll change the deployment to complete when the VM is ready. You can see your deployment is complete. So I saw it. After that, your learning number 2, verify resource created. Once the deployment is created, you can verify that Azure created not only a VM, but all of the associated resources the VM needs. So if you see here, deployment, this VM is created, and then deployment details. See, my VM, VM286, VM NSG for network. So IP, my VM IP. Do you see? It is not just the VM it has created, but all the different things that is required for the VM is also created. IPs, VNet, NSG, many things are created. The network components and things like that, things are created. Okay. Getting it? Okay. Now, if you want to know more details, operation details, for example, subscription ID succeeded, 2 seconds it took, created, Microsoft.network, network interfaces. So all the things are created. Now to see this, verify resource created, select home, select resource groups. So all you have to do, you have to go to Microsoft Azure, and then here you have to click on resource groups. Here you can directly see it here, or you can navigate to resource groups. And in the resource group, you can see this is my resource group name. If I click on this, now I'll be able to see my VM. Do you see? My virtual machine is created here in the region West US. Select the Sandbox resource group name, resource group. So you should see a list of resources in the resource group. So here you can see list of resources are there. Okay, disk is there, right? You need a hard drive also where the data has to be stored. Virtual network, network security group, public IP address, virtual machine, storage account. So all of this got created. The storage account and virtual network are associated with the Learn Sandbox, the storage account. Do you see? This is the storage account and the virtual network. myvm.net are associated with the Learn Sandbox. However, the rest of the resources were created when you created the virtual machines. By default, Azure gave them all similar name to help with association and group them all in the same resource group. It has given a similar name. Do you see? My VM IP, my VM NSG, my VM Net, my VM 285, my VM Disk 1, like that. Congratulations, you have created a resource in Azure and had a chance to see how resources get grouped in creation. So you got a entire experience. Now in the comment section, let me know how many of you were able to create this. I would love to see that comment. How many of you have really completed the course and were able to create a resource? The sandbox automatically cleans up your resources when you are finished with this module. When you are working in your own subscription, it is a good idea at the end of the project to identify whether you still need the resource you created. Resources that you leave running can cost you money. So it's a good idea to remove it if you don't really need it. You can delete resources individually or delete the resource group to delete the entire set of resources. So here because it is a sandbox environment, we don't have to worry about it. Okay, this anyways automatically the thing that I have created going to get removed because it's a learn. Wherever you see learn, it's a sandbox one. It will automatically get removed. You would not be charged any kind of cost. Clean up your resources and when you are finished with this model. Okay, so that way we have completed this particular course. Now let's go back, and I think the last item is to do a knowledge check. So let's do a knowledge check quickly. Check your knowledge. How many resource groups can a resource be in at the same time? So this is very important rule. I said any one resource can be in any one resource group. You cannot have in two. So answer should be 1. Okay. What happens to the resources within a resource group when an action or settings at the resource group level is applied? So what happens? It gets applied to everything. Current resources inherit the settings, but future resources don't. Future resources inherit the settings. Settings is applied to the current and future resources. Next, what Azure feature replicates resources across regions that are at least 300 miles away from each other? 300 miles away from each other, what you call it as region pairs. This we also have learned. Now click on submit answer. Let's see it. Okay, so now you can see first answer is correct, second answer is correct, and first answer, second answer, and third answer all are correct. So thank you for watching. Let's meet once again in the next content.